안녕하십니까. 저는 주한 뉴질랜드 대사 돈 베넷입니다. New Zealand has achieved some significant milestones in the representation of women in Parliament, going right back to 1893, when we became the first self-governing country to grant women the vote. And this year we celebrate 130 years of women's suffrage. Later, our journey continued with some pivotal moments, for example, New Zealand's first woman Member of Parliament in 1933 and first woman Cabinet Minister in 1947. Our first woman ambassador was appointed to the Philippines in 1978, and now 27 of our ambassadors around the world, of which we have 59, are women. And in addition to these historic milestones, we've also implemented various policies and systems that have increased women's representation in Parliament. For example, affirmative action measures, some changes in the electoral system, including the mixed member proportional system, and also party-level initiatives have all played a crucial role. And these efforts culminated in the 2020 election, where for the first time women secured the majority of seats in the House of Representatives. Today, we have 38% of our members of Parliament who are women. And to build social consensus on women's representation in politics, we've engaged in diverse activities, including public awareness campaigns, education programs, and collaboration with civil society organisations. These initiatives underscore the importance of women's political participation in creating a more inclusive and representative democracy. And these kind of perspectives or diversity in decision-making contributes to addressing a broad range of societal issues. We celebrate all these achievements, but we also recognise that there are challenges that remain. So New Zealand remains committed to addressing these challenges, ensuring that we continue to progress towards gender equality in politics. New Zealand now has 38% of women amongst our ministers, and New Zealand's policies have been shaped significantly by the influence of women in political power over some time. Also, the tireless efforts of advocates for gender equality throughout our history. The women's liberation movement, for example, in the 60s and 70s, played a pivotal role in demanding equal opportunities in education, employment, pay, childcare, contraception, and safe abortion services. Then, from 1973 to 1981, the government formed committees to channel women's perspectives formally into policy making. And the first such body for women's views influencing policy was established in 1981, reporting to our Minister of Justice. Then, in 1984 and 85, the Ministry of Women's Affairs was founded to promote equality, expand choices, and be responsive to women's needs. In the 1990s, the focus then expanded to enhance women's participation in governance across sectors. Initiatives like the Women's Appointment File, for example, aimed to nominate women for public sector boards. And during the 2000s, while the Ministry of Women's Affairs continued to provide policy advice that positively impacted women, families and communities, gender issues also became mainstreamed as a cross-cutting issue that had to be considered in all policy advice going to ministers. The ministry was renamed then the Ministry for Women in 2014. In New Zealand, the presence of women in senior political positions has given us a wealth of role models, offering inspiration to up-and-coming aspiring women politicians. And this abundance of role models is a particular strength, I think, of our political landscape. Recognising that encouraging women to enter politics requires a holistic approach, New Zealand understands that gender equality serves as the foundation for a fairer, healthier, more diverse and safer society. And that not only benefits women, it also enhances productivity and improves the development outcomes for everyone. In 2017, Jacinda Ardern became the world's youngest serving female leader, and she went on to make history as the second woman to give birth while holding elected office as Prime Minister. Her leadership focused on kindness, empathy and solidarity. Then in March 2019, while she was Prime Minister, New Zealand suffered the worst terror attack in its history, when a white supremacist gunned down worshippers at 2 mosques in Christchurch, killing 51 people. The words, "They are us," formed the centre of Prime Minister Ardern's speech, embracing the immigrant and refugee communities that were targeted in the attack. Images of Prime Minister Ardern dressed in a hijab, hugging a victim's family at one of the mosques, were broadcast across the globe. During the COVID-19 pandemic, her public messages then focused on kindness, empathy and solidarity, and that galvanised the country during a difficult time. To support and encourage women politicians, New Zealand has also implemented a number of legislative and policy measures aimed at promoting gender equality. Those encompass pay transparency regulations, parental leave policies, and efforts to address workplace discrimination. The education system is actively encouraged to be gender inclusive. Also, NGOs, community organisations and government bodies play active roles in advocacy, running awareness campaigns and initiating programs to address gender-based violence and empower women. Ongoing public discourse also fosters discussions on gender equality issues, creating awareness and promoting dialogue on challenges and potential solutions. This holistic approach in New Zealand is reflected in the success that women have experienced in our politics, which demonstrates the effectiveness of our long-standing commitment to encouraging the participation of women in politics. There was a watershed moment in 2001 when I was young, when Dame Sylvia Cartwright was appointed Governor-General of New Zealand. And that meant that the top 5 political roles at that time were filled by women. There was Governor-General Cartwright, Prime Minister Helen Clark, Chief Justice Sian Elias, Attorney General Margaret Wilson, and Leader of the Opposition Jenny Shipley. And that was a great time. Yes, New Zealand recognises that achieving gender equality requires a comprehensive approach to address customs, norms, practices and laws that reinforce social exclusion. One particularly significant initiative that we've undertaken is the Women's Employment Action Plan. This is led by our Ministry for Women, which aims to enhance employment pathways for marginalised women in the labour market. This plan specifically targets Indigenous, Māori and Pacific women, also young and older women, disabled women, women who are former refugees and recent migrants, and also the LGBTQIA+ community. Actions outlined in the plan include things like improving childcare access, closing the gender pay gap, reducing gender-based occupational segregation and promoting more flexible working arrangements. Now, the plan supports women to achieve financial security, foster an inclusive labour market and ensures that women are supported in meeting both their paid and unpaid work commitments without facing penalties. While addressing the diverse needs of these groups, it emphasises tailored actions to empower each segment of the population. Then, in addition to national initiatives, New Zealand actively engages in UN negotiations on gender equality and women's rights. We also support Pacific voice and engagement in international forums such as the Commission on the Status of Women and the Commission on Population and Development. This involvement underscores New Zealand's commitment to global efforts aimed at advancing gender equality and promoting the rights of women. And just to finish, I'd like to quote one of my favourite Māori sayings, which is the Indigenous language of New Zealand, and that is, "He aha te mea nui o te ao, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata." And that means, what is the most important thing in the world? It is people, it is people, it is people. Thank you.